have a long way to go to be a better man, a better father, a better teacher. But I can make a difference in these kids' lives. It's a tough world out there, and I can help them be ready for it. That's what I've been up to. That's who I am. I'm a sensei. Too long.
Wow. My name is Jim Scampoli, and I represent Cobra Kai because when they set a premiere date, I start watching at midnight, and I don't stop till I watch all the episodes. That's right. I'm sure I got my other fellow binge comrades out there that have already stayed up all night and watched the whole season 3. We waited too long to let this simmer. We waited too long to not just watch all of this. This is just me, by the way. Jacob will also be recording his initial thoughts separately. He's in rural Ireland where, you don't have internet, you don't have technology. I guess he gets Netflix because I think he's watching the show. But see, now we had initially planned, because the show was supposed to debut January 8th. I'm sure you're all aware of this. Then Netflix started playing a little coy with the release date, bumped it up to the 1st. Great way to start the new year, 2021. So it all worked out, but we're scrambling a bit just to get some initial thoughts out there on Cobra Kai Season 3. After waiting so long, it's finally here. So this will be just kind of initial thoughts. I watched it, stayed up till, I'm on the Pacific time, which is nice, so it did debut at midnight. I went to bed about 5:30, took a little nap, and here I am. So there will be spoilers here, but it's just going to be kind of basic thoughts. And then, in the future, we're going to go back and break down episode by episode, Jacob and myself. But this is just kind of initial stream of consciousness here on season 3 as a whole after waiting so long. So let's get right into it. Now, of course, as we all knew, it was going to pick up with the after effects of the giant school brawl that happened at the end of season 2. And of course, Miguel got kicked off the railing and, he's still in the hospital. Johnny's down in the dumps still. He's, he blames himself, as he should. And karate is persona non grata now in the Valley. So, I guess I don't mean to start off with like nitpicks. But what are you going to do? Overall, the season is great. It's awesome. Characters have great stuff. There's great things that happen with them. The things we've been debating over for the past, year and a half, whatever it's been. Those things start to pay off and they start to come to fruition here. So there's a lot of great stuff. I will say initially, and again, I don't know if this could just be that after all the build up and the anticipation and us building our own theories and what have you, it wasn't fully clicking for me in the beginning for the first few episodes, first 4 maybe. And again, don't take that as a negative. It wasn't bad, not by any means. No, it was more so that there was just so much going on. One of my biggest nitpicks is it makes sense that there'd be some aftermath stuff with the LaRusso Auto Group and how that plays out. It's completely that's something you should explore. But nothing, we never hear about it again after episode 5, which is fine. I was done hearing about it. And I understand that, there's this whole thing about the exclusive rights to the Dayona automobiles and all that. But even outside of that, the way the story built up is that people didn't want to go to the LaRusso Auto Group in general. So that just got solved? Again, I'm not too concerned with that anyway, so I'm kind of glad I don't really need these answers. But it's just we had all this stuff going on. We got Miguel in the hospital. We've got Robbie on the run. We got Sam dealing with her post-traumatic stress. We've got Tori, dealing with her home life. So it's just they use the LaRusso Auto Group to kind of finagle Daniel to get him to go back to Japan, and that's where we get the Okinawa revisit. I like how it all tied together. I like how it all came together, like in episode 5, which I've tweeted this. I feel like, the show's always great with episode 5s because they do kind of build like these mini arcs, and like when we hit the halfway point of the season, things become more clear. And I think they do it once again, which I really appreciate. I really enjoyed. And again, like some of the flashbacks, there's a big contention on any of our Jacob and I's discussion on TV shows, especially Netflix shows, because the way Netflix shows use flashbacks, it's always a little rough. And again, I don't mean necessarily the flashbacks to the Karate Kid films. I think those are completely understandable because obviously not everyone is, the big Cobra Kai Karate Kid heads like ourselves, where they've, well versed in the films. They do have to throw in some of this stuff because you haven't seen it in the show. It's more so the flashbacks to stuff that's happened in the show, which again, I understand. I mean, especially if someone did watch it originally on YouTube, because now here we are, friggin' year and a half later. But I mean, with the Netflix crowd, come on. They just binged it in September. They need to see like flashbacks to the fight. And again, not all of them are bad. Sometimes it is more so from the character's point of view because where they're at. It just, this is stuff we'll get into with Jacob, because I know Jacob's always a big fan of flashbacks. And again, I don't mean to start this on such a downer, but I'm kind of going through some of the beginning beats. And again, I think a lot of this too was just so overwhelming, like finally having season 3. It took me a little bit to get back into the mode of like, usually at this point, I'm so used to when I watch Cobra Kai, I've rewatched it a bunch of times, so I know where everything is going. So it's almost like a new place to be in to have new episodes again. So it really took me a little bit, and partially too, because at the beginning, we get the Daniel Johnny team up, which is awesome. It's what we wanted. It's what I've wanted, especially. We've been, clamoring for this. But all I'm thinking as I'm watching is I'm like, there's gonna be like a dumb thing that happens to break this up. That's all I'm thinking, and that's not good on my part. And then almost like as I'm thinking it happens, like, because they have that kick-ass garage fight, which was cool. I liked what they were doing with the, they do reference specifically Tango and Cash, but they were for sure going for like 80s action, Lethal Weapon type buddy cop film with elements of episode 2, and that pays off with the fight, and they're teaming up, which is great because they've always flirted with this on the show. But I'm just thinking like this is way too early. Something's gonna happen, and it's not even that great of a payoff. Like if they could just kind of fight over like the fight as they're on the search for Robbie, and it just they break up, of course. Like now Johnny has that minivan, which is hilarious, by the way. And they go off their separate ways. They're still, fighting for Robbie, or trying to find him, trying to do the best they can. And I've already seen, speaking of Robbie, like specifically, who kind of disappears a little bit this season, which I guess makes sense. Now, the weird thing is because it feels like this would have to be a year, like the way this whole season plays out. I get why they can't do that because obviously we're building towards the next All Valley tournament. So we only get to basically Christmas or December 19th. Oh, gotta love it. What a date in Karate Kid history. But I mean, you got to roll with it. I mean, I understand a lot of things happen, and I get like it is nice that time has like spread out a bit where we're taking a little bit more time, but with the amount of things that happen, anyways, whatever, that's nothing. But Robbie disappears for a bit, which is understandable. I mean, he's in juvie. We see a little bit of his plight as he kind of gains respect from the bullies, and I guess we're just kind of left to assume that that mutual respect kind of pays off for him, and the fact that he shows he wasn't a wimp or whatever. But a lot of people are already kind of complaining about both him and Tori. And Tori's another one who kind of sporadically disappears. I think from what I saw people mentioning that she might have been shooting a movie at the same time they were filming, so there's kind of some reasoning behind it. But I'm in agreement with some of the complaints on Tori, because Tori is a maniac. Tori is insane. They both have similar points of view, which are very understandable from their characters, because they're kids that don't have a lot and they're being forced to grow up way too quickly, and they're looking at their peers and what they have. And I mean, Tori even specifically says it, like they're being left behind, or people don't care about them the same way. So it makes sense. They're searching for a father figure, and then this is like prime territory for Kreese to come in. So it all makes sense, but Tori is still kind of a maniac. And even she's like, you're just like everyone else. You think I'm crazy? And it's like, yeah, but you are crazy. And not in the respect of like how Sam speaks about how it's not the same for a girl. She just gets labeled crazy. But no, Tori is crazy. I mean, we already saw hints of it in season 2, so I guess it's just kind of the extension of that, because she was gonna maybe not murder Sam, but like disfigure her. And now to the point where, things go where they go by the end. Now, so yeah, people are complaining a little bit about that as Robbie as well. They say Robbie's kind of irredeemable. I don't think that's quite true. I think Robbie obviously has been burned by obviously his biological father, and then to an extent with Daniel. And, he's a kid, and we've already seen he went to Daniel to piss off Johnny. So what's the best thing to piss off both of them and go to someone who seemingly is there for you, but to go to Kreese? So all that makes sense. It's all a wash. And again, like, I kind of complain a little bit about how like convoluted it is to get Daniel to go to Okinawa. But in the end, it pays off really great. It's great to see Chosen. It's great to see Kumiko. The way they bring in the Miyagi letters, I really enjoy. The like secrets of Miyagi-Do, I don't know really how I feel about that, because I don't know if the payoff is as good as it should have been. I mean, of course, it comes down with Kreese, and we knew it had to come back up eventually. But I'm not against it. I'm not necessarily like thinking it's a great plot point. I guess it's very similar to how Robbie does the double kick, the no hand kick. They always have to have a secret thing that we find out. But I mean, either way, it was great to kind of be back, especially the goof about it being a mall and all that stuff. Like, a lot of fun stuff. But again, to me, it kind of really all came together in a nice way in episode 5, and then we get to kind of like, I feel like it's all like great stuff from there. Because again, it's like we're dealing with a little bit more heavy drama, which is good. I love that the show can do that for a while. Because obviously with Miguel where he's at, and then Johnny and Carmen, with Miguel being hurt the way he is and wanting to, but Miguel still wanting to be with his sensei, and then getting Miguel on like the path of rehabilitation, which again happens in a couple months. Which, hey, whatever. It's a TV show. What are you gonna do? We can't sit here all the time with him in a wheelchair. Amanda continues to be great. I mean, I do like the way she gets on board throughout this season, because the way her reactions were in season 1 and 2 made complete sense. And a lot of people have always called out how great her character is to kind of reel things back in. But it's really fun to see her like start to realize the reality of Daniel's life, what he's been trying to tell her about Cobra Kai and what that means, and her mixing it up with Kreese, and then being painted the villain herself, the way Kreese gets a restraining order on her because, she goes and slaps him and all that. And like Kreese plays the part really well of making it seem like other people are crazy. And the way they become a team again, because we've seen them be a team with their business and all that, which makes complete sense. And then to see her becoming on the same page and, you know, throwing her hat in the ring of this karate enemies and duels that you get caught up in. So I did enjoy that. And of course, just getting more Miguel and Johnny stuff, that's what I wanted more, and we get it once they're kind of back on the path of rehabilitation, and we get to see hints of early Johnny and his slightly off-center idea of training and or rehab, and they go on quite a journey there. And again, building to having a separate dojo, which is what not Falcon Fang, Eagle Fang, which is great. I do like the thing with going in, like, I know I'm jumping around a bit, but that's kind of the deal here. Going back to Hawk, the best comparison I have with what they do with Hawk is Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. When you go back to, I mean, spoilers for Game of Thrones, which everyone hates now. So if you haven't watched it, I'm sure you're not going to, because everyone hates it. But in the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones, when Theon finds himself kind of in charge of Winterfell and doing bad shit because, like, the Starks are gone, they would always cut to him and he'd make these he'd be all tough about, like, whoa, kill the children or whatever. And then he'd turn around to camera and, like, no one could see him, and he'd make these faces like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And we get a lot of Hawk doing that this season, which is always, every now and then you'd have to zoom in on him and he'd have to make a face like, oh, what have I become? Oh my God. I love the way they reintegrate the bullies from season 1. It's a very smart way to do that, because it makes complete sense now that we're in Kreese's domain. Karate has this cool kind of rebellious feel to it now. It's not as corny as it was, which I guess in the timeline of the show, it's only been, about 6 months or so, because it was in May. I mean, I guess even before that, we go to the beginning. Obviously, it's been a year because we go back to like Halloween and the beginning of the school year before. But I just mean coming off of the tournament and then through that summer, and now coming back to karate being cool. I will say, staying with Hawk a bit, I don't know if it fully is earned where he goes at the end of the season. I still loved the moment with him and Dimitri. I thought it was great. It got me really hyped. I just don't know if it's fully. I mean, that's because like the depths he goes, where he's like breaking arms and But I guess he sees the writing on the wall with Robbie becoming Kreese's new star pupil. And then of course, like the way it builds. Again, going back to kind of my nitpicks with the beginning of the season with Daniel and Johnny, and knowing that that's not gonna last, and they almost kind of threw me for a loop with the end of episode 9, where they're kind of teasing like it's all gonna go off the rails again. I was like, oh my God, I'm like, that's where I'm starting to roll my eyes, because I know every good will they, won't they, which, as I've said from the beginning, Johnny and Daniel are such a will they, won't they from this show, but when they get together, people always complain. But I feel like at this point, and as you'll see with the season, we have to go there. We could play with it more, but it has to come to this moment, which it does, as you know. But before we get into that, I like the way they bring in Allie. They tease the goof early in the season with, bringing in Miguel's surgeon, which is a great goof, because I'm like, oh, they're going to do it. They're actually going to do it. They don't. I do like that she kind of just shows up, and it's not this grand reveal. I guess there's already been build up to it because we have the Facebook conversations going on, which is hilarious. Johnny's like great message that gets deleted to, nothing much you. But I like that, episode just starts and there she is. There doesn't have to be some surprise like Johnny, and then all of a sudden Allie's there and blah, blah, blah. And the way they handle it is great, because it doesn't have to be this thing of, okay, now Allie's back and now they're together and now this and that, like making up for lost times. It's just, it's very grounded and real of just, going back to those times, saying things that were left unsaid, getting some closure, and also her taking on the point of view of the audience a bit and really fleshing out where Johnny and Daniel are and how alike they actually are and why they kind of need each other. Great stuff. My God, Daniel and Miguel. I've been clamoring for this forever. And then such an awesome moment where we get like the flip side of the Johnny telling Miguel the story, and now Daniel kind of clearing up his point of view. And then they're doing it in the car. And so good. I mean, going back with Miguel, like Robbie walking in while Miguel and Sam are kissing. It's very, it's a teen show. What are you going to do? It's part of it. But that's very kind of like, here we go. Roll your eyes kind of a bit. Now, one thing I do have to kind of speak on as I'm kind of like jumping around, getting to the end. I mean, obviously I've missed a ton, but don't get me wrong. We're going to go back and dive into all these things. I'm just talking broad strokes, stuff that stick out in my mind. Just lost my train of thought. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So, obviously, they dealt with the high school fight in a grounded, real way where you're feeling the effects of it all season, which is great. I appreciate that. But, I mean, they have this fucking brawl, home invasion that happens at the LaRusso house, and I loved it, don't get me wrong, but it's hard not to think like, okay, we're doing this again in the finale. Now it's another, big brawl. But don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I could just see that there's some criticism there, and it's like they just got the All Valley tournament back. Wouldn't this be just as big of a news? Like, oh, those karate kids are fighting again. This time, a home invasion happens. Although I guess it kind of takes away a lot of Kreese's clout that he had as far as pitching himself as this war veteran good guy, like he did in the council meeting or what have you. I mean, the thing is, it's almost like since the way you did this season with the school fight. Not that you have to do it to the same extent in season 4, but how is there not going to be fallout from that unless it is like this Daniel and Amanda are like, no, if we, report this a certain way, then karate will once again be looked down upon. I just can't imagine the way that happens. And then the way the brawl breaks out at Cobra Kai. It's just, I get it. It's a Karate Kid show. We need to have karate fights. But when kids are fighting through a house and like smashing everything, going through walls and shit, it feels like, we're going to be back to square one here with the way karate's looked upon, because clearly like shit's bad. And I did mention flashbacks previously. Obviously it's different when we're getting into the Kreese flashbacks, because as we see throughout the season, we see Kreese's backstory, and I can't lie, initially I roll my eyes because we've seen so many times obviously with like the Star Wars prequels or whatever, we always have to like take a villain and they're a bully or whatever, or no, they were bullied or whatever, which there's some truth to it, obviously. I guess I kind of would have wanted this a little bit more last season. Because when we discussed season 2, we discussed about how the show's so good at the gray area and everyone has a story, and Kreese didn't really get that. I mean, I can't complain too much because they're giving us it now. It does, I guess, make more sense as a parallel now that Kreese is in the place where he is. But it just felt weird because last season Kreese was such a one-note villain. And I guess to their credit, they're not using those flashbacks this season to really, like, we're not then seeing Kreese have these moments to himself where he's like, you know, doing the Theon Greyjoy or the Hawk thing where he's like, oh my God, what have I become? What am I doing? Like, Kreese is just so Kreese at this point. I don't know if there's even a way out of that. So it's just, I guess, giving us more context and how someone can become the way they are. And I mean, I can't wait to talk to Jakob about Terry fucking Silver, dude. Come on. I mean, obviously with the way the phone call is, because I mean, we have the phone call at the end. He's looking at the picture. I mean, not that there's much they could do to get out of it, because I think the other guy in the picture's dead. So clearly it's Terry. But I'm sure they have a backup plan if they change it, or there's always a way they could fake that out. I was just reading about how they had a backup plan after the Allie cliffhanger of season 2, just in case they couldn't get Elizabeth Shue. I guess they had a plan where maybe it was going to be her husband that was sending messages as Allie, which would have been like, oh Jesus, like how do you get out of that? Thankfully they didn't. And thankfully, we're going to see Terry Silver, as we know we should. And I'm excited to hear what Jacob's opinion is on that, on the prospect of seeing Terry Silver. Because he's not a big fan of Karate Kid 3. I don't know if you've heard our discussion on it. And even to an extent, Terry Silver. But I guess, yeah, I can forgive the Kreese stuff more. And I like how they do the switcheroo with it, where we have... I mean... Again, I'm rolling my eyes because we see the car pull up at first, and then we see who we think is Kreese driving it, and it's like, oh my God, please don't do this. Please don't do what you're doing. Thankfully, they're not. They're just playing with our emotions as they're wont to do. And the bully in the flashbacks is actually played by Martin Cove's son. I'm sure people listening to this are aware of that, but just in case you're not, that was played by his son. But I don't know. It's just... So at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, geez, I don't need to see Kreese as like a wimp or whatever. But everyone has their origin story, and you know, finally getting the tale of a young Terry Silver and a young Kreese, and how he became so indebted to him, and having his back is great to see, and the prospects of where this is going to go in the future, because of course, after the small little taste at the beginning of the season ends with Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do teaming up, and we're playing in the air tonight, and when the fucking drum fill comes in, here's your boy, Johnny Lawrence, and it's such an awesome moment, and they've been teasing it and playing with it, and here we are. They're at Miyagi-Do together. They've joined their dojos. They're joining together to face a common enemy. And when they bow to each other, I mean, we're all crying. We're all in tears. We're all, you know, throwing our fists in the air and cheering at our TVs, as we should, at 5 a.m. This is great. Great stuff. I mean, again, I know I started this a little bit like kind of nitpicky, and I think some of that, again, is more my own personal baggage of like just waiting so long, and you know, you work out in your head how things are going to play out, and then you got to get used to like seeing it play out. I'm very excited to rewatch some of these and really get into some of the discussion, especially obviously with my co-host Jakob, as we're going to break it down, because now we got the long wait to season 4, so we got to fill the time somehow. So what do? We rewatch Cobra Kai. It's all we can do. So I hope you guys are excited as we are. I'm sure you are, all the Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do heads out there. Thank you so much for listening. If you have some thoughts, what are your initial reactions? Just kind of like stream of consciousness, the stuff that sticks out, the stuff you love, the stuff you don't love so much. Hit us up at showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to our podcasts. We have multiple. Of course, there's this one here, No Mercy, a Cobra Kai Kickback. Or as I'm going to rally for a name change of No Mercy, an Eagle Fang Kickback. Eagle Fang fan forum? Okay, yeah, No Mercy, an Eagle Fang fan forum. Hopefully coming to your podcast feeds in the not-too-distant future. So yeah, hit us up, leave a review, subscribe, tell a friend, And strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Mercy. Mercy.